I'm Dave Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Leader Forum. Today, our topic is organizational culture, maintaining the human connection. We have a terrific guest panelist who knows a lot about that. As CEO for a high-tech firm, she has employees in many, many different places. More on that in a few minutes, and I'm very excited for the session. Virtual Leadership Matters came around the time of COVID's launch in early 2020. At the time, Statistics Canada said that about 4% of Canadians were working in a remote mode in the workforce. Within weeks, if not days, 32% of the workforce, or 3.4 million people, started to work remotely. Much of that continues today, and it's going to carry on in projections. The incredible changes in the last 2 years have been very profound. The researchers forecasted that perhaps we would get 2 decades worth of change in the 2 years we've just seen. It's fascinating to look at books like Scott Galloway's book that talks about crisis to opportunity and analyzing what has really gone on. Our mission in all of this has been to support leaders and their teams operating virtually to help them maintain productivity, performance, and continue to build healthy cultures. Essentially, we're bringing virtue into the virtual. 2 years, 5 phases of COVID later, we know much has changed, much has been learned, and there's much to share. With that in mind, Dave Town and I co-founded the Virtual Leadership Network last year. The network has been created to respond to the growing demand for answers to questions related to leading in the virtual and hybrid work environment. Leadership can be a lonely activity, and it's awesome to give people an opportunity to network with their peers and share best practices and learnings. Membership in the network enables leaders to connect, share best practices, and learn how to effectively tackle the challenges associated with leading effective remote or hybrid teams. This leadership forum is an important component of that. Today, we will be dialoguing on culture, maintaining the human connection. With all the change that has happened and will continue to happen, culture is a vital area to focus on proactively. Therefore, I'm really excited about the session today. Dave Town is now going to queue up the topic, introduce our guest panelist.
Thanks, Dave. So without too much delay, let's get into Garnette, into her presentation. She's the CEO and co-founder of itracks. itracks is a fabulous story in terms of building back before the turn of the century, starting up the process of engaging in consumer studies or well, actually, Garnette, I should let you explain exactly what you guys do. You'll do a better job than I will. So let me stop share and give the microphone over to you. I know you and I've talked, you have some fabulous insights for us. And so I'm really excited to hear your thoughts today.
Great, thank you so much for having me, and I'm really looking forward to engaging. Please feel free to pop questions, comments into the chat area. I love engaging virtual sessions, so feel free to make comments and ask questions, or even turn on your mic. We have a group that's conducive to discussion, so if you want to make a comment or ask a question, by all means, feel free to jump in. So itracks provides a platform to do online focus groups and interviews, mostly for the research industry. So most of our clients are they are qualitative research professionals. They are work at marketing ad agencies, or they're management consultants that are doing research on a particular topic, and they want to have those engaging, in-depth sessions. And so prior to the pandemic, And for many years, we launched our first online focus group platform in 1999, actually. And so we have been doing this for years. And I love the fact that the pandemic has gotten everybody with a computer, with a mic and a camera and a good internet connection. So it has been, I think, revolutionary in that finally we can have really engaging discussions and interactions online. So prior to people doing the focus groups online, they used to do them in these focus group facilities where you would have, this is the room, and there's if they look towards us, they'd see a mirror. And on the other side of the mirror is this client viewing room. So the clients or the stakeholders in the research would sit here and they would watch the focus group and they talk amongst themselves. And every once in a while, the moderator would run out of the room, go into the client room and see what they want for research. So we basically built that online where you have the main room and then the back room where people, the clients and stakeholders can talk. So we've had virtual interaction for many, many years. The pandemic has created a steep learning curve for me because all of a sudden, everybody in our office, we have a really fun office. We renovated a restaurant and everyone was interacting and having lunch together and drinks after work on Friday on the patio. And then all of a sudden, boom, everyone went home in March of 2020. And we had to figure out how to get a more engaging workplace online. And it was helpful in that we've always had, because we're in Saskatoon, we've always had to have remote stuff. So I've always had salespeople in the US. I have a software developer in Turkey, and we've got some people all around the world. And so and that engaging with clients has always been virtual, but it's definitely having the core of our staff. It's been a learning curve for me. So I think one of the most helpful things in terms of setting your culture is to be really upfront about it. So with your leaders, and every Wednesday morning, I just got out of it. We have a company-wide stand-up from 9:30 to 10 where each department reports different updates. But in that, I take an opportunity to share something exciting and I always show this slide so that, and I iterate something special on it. And this company culture is really important. These are the key things to make itracks who itracks is, as well as our core values. So I really try to emphasize, and I maybe pick a story from a client or a staff member that really emulates one of these things to highlight every week, just so that it's embedded and ingrained and we're really purposeful around that. So basically March of 2020, this is the new reality. And I wanted to, I think what's really I've become aware of is we have a lot, like as a business leader, you have a lot of competition in this home environment. I think you're competing with children, pets, Netflix, laundry, cooking. There's all these different things that could potentially distract your employees. And we're seeing that. So in our data, we have information on performance of some roles. So for example, when someone calls in for tech support, it goes to our help desk. And so we have stats on the help desk support saying, okay, how long did it take them to respond to a ticket? Or how long did their phone ring before they answered it? Or how many tickets are they solving in a day? So we have that stats, and we learned that people are not as responsive when they're working at home as when they're in the office in those particular roles. So what the learning is for me is that we can't treat every role the same, and we cannot treat every person the same. The virtual work is not going away, but we need to find a culture and we need to create accountability. So we were a lot more transparent with those numbers. And some of the people, we've actually brought them into the office. So we have some roles or some individuals that come into the office because that is the environment that makes them the most successful. There's other roles that have really boomed. Like I had a salesperson, her sales have tripled since moving to online because she can stay focused. She found this really distracting because comments and all these things were with virtual people come and they have a meeting for a specific purpose. So she really loves that. And I want to give that opportunity because she's really excelling in that role. One of the learning moments, there's always this aha. I remember one night we had a support desk, like a tech support individual, and he had taken a new position. And so I came in the evening, his last shift, to get his key fob, and then I did an exit interview. And usually these are only, with a tech support, it might be like 30, 45 minutes. This one was like 2 hours. We went deep and I learned so much. And I highlighted a few things in here. And it was not a proud moment for me as a leader of our company. And what I realized is we're missing the boat on a few things. So this individual had a computer science degree, and he'd taken a tech support position as a student and was now a software developer. He had an interest that didn't completely align for promotion into our design and our software development department. We have our own group that develops software. And he had worked for Shopify before, and then now he was working for us, and he was hoping to get, by working for a tech company, he would get interactions and mentorship and collaboration with our software developers. And I'm like, how did this not happen? We always used to be so open and just like, you could have lunch with someone, chat with them at the water cooler. Like, what's happened? And what I realized was we are missing the boat on this in that virtual environment. And so, and he, as a tech support, he's not going to reach out to our software architect and say, hey, can we just chat about what it's like to be an architect? It's not going to happen. And then ironically, timing, my son is just started a commerce degree, and he asked me to help him with some schoolwork. And it was organizational behavior class. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I could learn something here. And so this is right out of his, I've plagiarized it, I've copied it. This is the U of S Cross organizational behavior PowerPoint slide. And what I learned was, we were talking about this, so basically it's the drive theory of motivation. And they had these 4 areas of motivation that employees tend to have. And what I realized is, while we were doing a great job in some of these quadrants, we were really struggling with the drive to bond. And every person is different. Some people will place different importance on these different drives, but I recognize we needed improvement in that area. So what I did was I created a bingo game, and this worked really great. So I just want to share just a practical example. Maybe you can do a spin-off of this. So, and I just made the draw, and the person who won it was just absolutely over the moon. So basically what we did, this was a couple months ago, I launched it, and the people had bingo cards, and they were different. And when I talked with Dave, he goes, oh yeah, these are like icebreakers. So basically they were little things that you might not do. They might be awkward if you like said, oh, can I talk, if I'm a tech support, can I talk to the software architect? Hey, could we have a chat about career progression, what it's like, what you like about your role, what are some of the things that you're doing, and how I could get on that career track. It's and so basically, by having it as a bingo square, it just made it a little more normal to do these things. And it was really impactful to our culture. And people just started doing, like, having lunch virtually together, having coffee. There were some really, really easy ones. And so basically they got a draw in the bingo draw to for any line, or they get 10 for a blackout. And then the winner, so I actually just did the draw, so they're all in here, and I just threw a winner. And they received a paid day off, holiday, without having to use vacation, and some gift certificates for a really fun long weekend. So and I think there was a lot of things in here, but especially on this drive to bond, which I think really helped our organization. And then also there's a lot of knowledge things where there was a lot of information and sharing. And I would say the #1 bingo square that had a huge impact on us that I didn't even predict, and it has to do with bonding, but with both I think it had an impact on our culture because it was bonding with coworkers, but also bonding with customers in getting more a higher degree of customer empathy. Because I think that sometimes happens too when people get virtually, they're not as connected to customers, which then also makes them that collective purpose of serving customers a little bit more challenging to bond around. And the square that really helped was joining observe a real-time activity being conducted by a client. And so this is basically observe an online focus group that a customer is doing. And that was really impactful because I think people started to see the intensity, like it was a client with the end client was Google, and the intensity like, oh, I hope this works, or I hope the Google executive can get connected because that would be so embarrassing, and all those things. So I think it really created a real life example for a lot of our staff and created more empathy. And I think they got to experience what our customers experience on a regular basis. And that created a bonding where they were able to have something that connected with the different team members. Now, in terms of some of these other areas, I thought I'd just share a few things that have worked really well. So I highly recommend having an area to post stuff. So we use Microsoft Teams, but there's Slack. You could use anything, but I think you need some kind of area for virtual posting. And so this is, again, to that drive of achievement. So we have a shout out. This is like a channel. So if you click on that channel, people can post things. And so here's one from earlier this week. And it's just some feedback from a client and shouting out this individual for a really great job that they did. So it's a channel just giving that recognition, because we don't have people in an office saying, hey, great job, Will, and everyone hearing. So this is the virtual equivalent of that. The other thing, training. So there's information, like if people are wanting that drive to acquire knowledge, there's a training channel, announcements. This is like people can show like, oh, I just had a baby, or here's my cool Christmas tree decoration that I made, all those kind of fun things. So it's sort of like announcements and what's happening kind of thing. So you can click on that and get that different information. So I think it's really important in an online environment to create those different things. And one of the employees came to me last week and said, oh, can I start a music channel in Teams where people can share their favorite song? I'm like, absolutely, because that creates that connection and bonding. And if music or art or different things is important to someone, that's what we want to encourage to get that cultural connection. All right, oh yeah, so basically this observer room, our staff were in there and they could see the main room, but these people don't know this conversation's happening. And so it really creates that empathy of actually viewing the customer. And I've always heard the phrase, eat your own dog food. And when we finally did, the light went on for some of my staff. And yeah, so that, and then just other things in terms of virtual situations. We had a really successful Christmas party this year where it was hybrid. People could come or they could attend virtually. And so we had a big TV screen where the virtual people were connected, and we played a Kahoot, a game, which was a ton of fun. We have rewards. So we set quarterly goals to keep everybody in alignment. And then here, I'll just show you here. I'm going to go. So our theme last quarter was connecting with itracks. And we had a goal, a collective goal that everybody in the company was working towards having 12,500 users connected to itracks software platform. And then every week I would give an update on the goal. And if we hit the goal, this quarter, it'll be a Jackbox party, which is like an online gaming system. Last quarter, it was Among Us party. So virtual games are a really big hit with our demographic of staff. We have a lot of software programmers and technical people. So it's a really, really great fit to get them engaged. And they would prefer it over just a video meeting, because some people will dominate and some people will just kind of turn their camera off and, and not engage. So the games have worked really well to create those engaging and celebration when we hit those achievements, and that collective work of moving everyone towards a specific goal. Yeah, so that's my experience in terms of virtual culture.
Fantastic, Garnette. I think there's some amazing stories. I love the creativity in creating the bingo game. I know when you and I talked, I just was the idea of taking an existing tool that we use for icebreakers and making that online to create connections, I think was brilliant. And so love the work you're doing.
Sadly, we've arrived at that time where we have to conclude our conversation today. I want to thank Garnette very much for attending and sharing the special story about itracks and how they keep the human connection very close. I want to thank Dave Town for sharing a terrific synthesis of research for you today. I also want to encourage you to check out the Mighty Networks for Virtual Leadership Network, and then join in with some of your industry peers and start sharing information in a totally confidential mode. I also would ask you to look out for and attend the next Leader Forum, which is scheduled for March 10th. We will continue our conversation on culture. You are able to find information on that in our website, and we will certainly correspond with you to let you know that it's coming up. So it is certainly on your calendar. Thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again.